Hey, good morning to those of you on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast here. I'm excited. We're going to be talking about how to plan for 2023 and set goals and achieve those goals in the federal market. So today we got a good topic. It's one that I use with my customers, and so I'm excited to be able to share it with you. I wanted to give you a tip if you're especially if you're in anything related to the professional services or touch on artificial intelligence. I wanted to give you a tip that I have for today. I put out a post today that is related to artificial intelligence. It's called I think it's the blueprint for artificial intelligence in the federal market. And it's 70 pages. The White House just released it yesterday, I think. And in this document, they lay out their 5 pillars for doing AI right. Let's just call it that, right? And the tip I wanted to bring in for you is, yes, absolutely, go take a look at that document and see how it applies. But if I was in the AI business, I would go grab that document and summarize in one page, maybe an infographic, the key points that are on those 70 pages to put them into the federal market, into our customers, or your target customers, let them know, right? It comes out from on high, then it has to float through the department level and the major commands, echelon 1, 2, and 3 in the DOD, and flowing down. Well, if think about the Department of Veterans Affairs, it starts at the department level, and then it goes to Veterans Health Administration, and then down to hospitals. It takes forever, like years, to get information pushed down. But if you can go summarize, hey, here's the top 5 things, 10 things you should pay attention to about this document, get it out. It's a way to start helping people know, like, and trust you. And people do business with those they know, like, and trust. So go ahead and get into that. It took me a minute, sorry, to figure out what was wrong with my screen, but it just occurred to me. I had it tipped up. Okay, so we're going to get rocking and rolling on today's topic. I got a lot of information, and the reason I like it in particular is because planning for success will lead to success. They talk about failing to plan will plan to fail. Well, planning for success will lead you towards success, and I'm excited to go down that path. The federal government, they're already off and running on their new fiscal year. Actually, hold on one second. Let me turn this little guy off. So I'm scrolling at the bottom. The federal government, they're already started their fiscal year, right? It just started this month, the beginning of this month, a couple of days ago, and they're planning on how to spend their hundreds of billions of dollars. And we want part of that. And so in this training, we're going to talk about how to plan for your own next year, how to plan for 2023, whether it's fiscal 2023 with the government or really calendar 2023, but how to plan for and achieve your goals in the federal market over the next year. That's something really important that I want to help you with. And if you want success like that, it requires planning, like I said. And so do me a favor, if that makes sense and you want that, put plan for success into the chat. Let me know you're here for that training. Okay, I'm going to share my screen in a minute, but if you don't know who I am, I'm Neil McDonnell. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. I want to welcome you to my daily LinkedIn Live federal sales training, where I share processes and procedures for you to achieve success in the federal market. I spent 20 years as a small business owner in the federal market, and since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret, it's just a process. When you follow a process, you're going to achieve predictable results. And that's what you want. That's what I want to help you get. Before we get started, do me a favor, and thank you for putting stuff into the chat. Let me know you're there and you're with me. Also put into the chat your company name and your core competencies. Help me and buyers remember who you are. Also help the people who are here in this community with you know who you are, so maybe they can reach out to you. This is the first step of knowing, liking, and trusting you, is by just sharing your company name and your core competency. People will begin to get to know you. And then one last thing to keep in mind about that, don't ever stop doing it. Do it every single day, every single place you go, early and often, as they talk about. Introduce yourself, introduce your company, and introduce your core competencies so we know where you fit into the broader aspect of things. Okay, and then as we go through in this community, it's your community, engage in the chat. You're going to hear me ask you to put stuff in the chat. Please do that as well to help me understand or know that you understand what I'm saying, because I work hard to put together this training in a way that's relevant to you. Even today, I want to make sure that you have a couple of specific things you could walk away and do this afternoon to move you forward on your planning for 2023. So I'm going to dive into that. I want to share my screen, but hold on one second. Just got to get it set up. Okay. Okay, I think I'm sharing my screen. I'm just going to go on hope that I'm sharing my screen. Today's training around setting a plan for 2023. I'm going to use what I call a federal sales strategy wheel. I put this in place for some of my customers for 5-year strategies. And the idea of a 5-year strategy is pretty much everything's the same except for the dollars. I want to target the same customers. I want to have the same strategic partners and build bigger and bigger relationships with them. And I want to sell the same things. If I'm changing all those constantly, then I'm really not able to put together a 5-year plan. But if I can have that strength and belief of the focused customers and focused services and products I sell, then I can set a 5-year plan and just start changing the numbers. And so I'm going to show you 2023 here. And you'll see me use an example. I'm going to talk about this as if it's my own company. It's not. It's the type of stuff I would do for my customers. So the first thing you got to do when you're setting a plan, strategic plan going forward, is you've got to have a number, right? What's your revenue goal for next year? And I don't like to use these fancy CPA terms, CFO terms. I just like to say at the end of 2023, December 2023, how much money do you want to report for the taxes? We earned this much revenue, right? Then you had all this cost or whatever, but this much. And let's say it's $10 million. When you do that, you look at this year and you say, how much sales do I have or revenue do I have that's going to move forward? So if you're a $5 million firm and you want to be 10 million next year, you need to get 10 million more in sales. And so in this particular case, I'm lining this up so that I'm getting $10 million new sales. And that means new sales where the revenue is recognized. I do the work, they pay me the money in 2023. That's what it means. I'm not here to talk about the 5-year contracts and all those out-year things. It's just think about it. How much more money do you want to get next year? And put that into the center of the circle. This number is really important that you get right. If I'm a $5 million a year company right now, if I go to 6 next year, that's great. If I can keep the 5 I have and get 1 more million, well, that's a 20% growth. That's a good, steady growth. I actually probably would want to go 100%, let's say. But if you plan out bigger than 100%, then you're not realistically planning out. Stretch goals are totally cool, but the goal that goes in here is the realistic goal. So put a number in the middle and that's your goal, because the reason this is vital is how can you determine what are all the activities you need to do? How can you do any more planning around your strategic goal here if you don't have it locked and making sure it's realistic? Okay, so I have my number. The next thing I want to do is I want to determine what my core competencies, and you'll see as I build this out, it's really important that you have a lock on one thing you do well. If you're at a level where you're going to get 10 million in sales, like I'm doing for certain customers, then you can have a couple of core competencies because you've gotten to that stage. If you're under 3 million, have one core competency. But in here, for my company, we're cloud focused and we're cyber focused. That's what we sell, cloud services and cyber services. And you need to do the same thing, right? What is your one core competency? In fact, I had you do it earlier, but do it again right now for everybody. Just put down what's 1 or 2 words that's your core competency. Don't worry about putting a whole message around it, but just 1 or 2 words. Like somebody had workforce, somebody else had SharePoint or Microsoft 365. Put those in the chat. Let me know you're tracking, that you need to know what your core competencies are. The next level down that I'm going as you're doing that, by the way, I can't see chat, so I'll see it at the end. But I love seeing it afterwards. And so you're engaging with each other when you're in the chat, most importantly. But so my core competencies are cloud or cyber. Then I'm trying to go more specific. We call this niching down. You're going further into a focus. And so cybersecurity, as an example, has all sorts of stuff. But I'm niching down into something called zero trust. Zero trust is the reason I like it, and I decided I want to focus on that heavily, is because zero trust is a buzzword or a marketing thing. It's an emerging idea. It's not emerging to those of us who've been in technology, but it's emerging to the customers who are like, oh, we got to get zero trust in place. And when I can find something like that, where it's a buzzwordy thing, where the buyers, the commanders, those people are all saying zero trust, zero trust, zero trust. Well, I want to be right there to be their trusted advisor on zero trust. And so I'm doubling down by putting it in here saying we want to be the very best zero trust company. We will still do other cyber related stuff, but zero trust is what we're going to be good at, right? So niche down yourself that way. Cloud services, you can see the same thing. I'm saying we're not going to be vendor agnostic, meaning we work with all customers. I want to be vendor biased. I want to be totally lockstep with Amazon Web Services. And so I'm saying this here. We're going to be an Amazon Web Services cloud provider, cloud service provider with a focus on application modernization, bringing legacy apps, old apps into the cloud and into the new way. This focus will allow me to build really strong relationships with Amazon and be seen as the Amazon expert out there. Compared to if I said I do Google Cloud, Amazon Cloud, Microsoft Cloud, Oracle Cloud, right? If I'm doing all of them, then people don't look to me for the expert. I want them to look to me for the expertise, right? Okay, hopefully that made sense there. The next thing I'm going to put in here is I talked about core competencies. What am I selling? Now I'm talking about how am I going to get to $10 million? And so these next two levels are priming and subbing. I just want to look at this and say, next year, how much of the money I'm going to try to earn, $10 million, how much of that is going to be brand new prime contracts that I'm the prime for? And how much of it will be subbing? And so just using these numbers, I've decided $3 million is how much I want to get as prime, and subbing $7 million under other companies. That's totally fine. Because I have them in place, it now allows me to start doing the next level of planning. And this next part, the red circle, if you can't see it, the second circle from the outside, third from the inside, this red circle here begins to go to this next level. And so let me put these three here. What I have determined as an organization is that I want to go after Department of Defense. For the next 5 years, I want to go after the Department of Defense. I'm not interested in HHS or DHS or any of these other things. I know I can build a $100 million company within DoD. They spend so much money that if I can be seen as the expert for what I do, let's say data, or in this case, cloud and cyber, then I will be able to build that revenue book of business up to $100 million in business. And so I know that. And what I'm telling myself is, okay, there's 4 groups within, let's call them components in the DoD, we call them services, but there's 4 groups that I'm going to target. Other DoD, and these are like joint commands or DoD headquarters or whatever. And then Air Force, Navy, and Army. And Marine Corps to me falls under the Navy, right? That's DON, the Department of Navy. But I'm looking at these 3, and I know for 5 years I'm going out, but you notice that some of them have 0. And what that is telling me, and I'm telling my team, is that I am not going after the Navy and Army proactively in 2023. I'm going to look at them in 2024. But in 2023, I'm going to go after Air Force for $2 million, and I'm going to go after other DoD for $1 million. And I made this determination because I have more relationships with these 2 organizations than I do with Navy and Army. Navy and Army will be newer to me. Maybe I need to hire a business developer to come in who's really focused on Army or focused on Navy. But so I've determined, right, that from a priming perspective, those $3 million, I'm going to get them from these 2 departments or services. And so if you thought about DHS, you might have FEMA or Secret Service, right? If you thought about HHS, you might see CDC and CMS up here. You don't have to have 4. I just knew I'm going out years, and that's where I'm going. If I was looking at DHS, I might choose the top 3 IT spenders, like Customs and Border Protection has a bigger IT budget than almost any other, or not almost, than any other component of DHS. And so they would be on my radar. You want to do that same thing. And so before I move past this, what's your department when you think big range? Is it Department of Defense, Department of Homeland Security, Department of Health and Human Services, Department of Education, whatever it is, put that in the chat. Let me know you're tracking on this. And you only have one department. Do not, like if you're 10 million and less, you should not be looking at multiple unrelated departments like DHS, HHS, and DoD. If you are, you're not really able to focus and capitalize on your expertise and your knowledge within. You're not able to capitalize on people relating back and forth. So put yours in there and let me know. And I'm going to come down here and talk about the subbing now. So I said $7 million of my $10 million goal is going to be subcontracting. You can set whatever number you want, by the way. And this wheel works for those of you who are under $1 million. or over 10 million, right? 50 million, it doesn't matter. It's a simple one-page way of looking at your organization. And so here I have this goal, and when I have 7 million and I'm saying I'm getting that as subbing, well, where are you getting that? I have to ask myself, my team and I, we ask each other, right? And again, this is just what I do for my customers. This is not really me, but this is what I do all the time. So subbing, I'm saying, great, sounds good. You're going to get 7 million. Where are you getting it? Well, what I'm saying here is that I plan on getting 4 million from large primes. I'll have strategic relationships I have built, and I'm going to go after work with large primes to try to land 4 million from them. And then over here, I've got 8A firms, and I'll explain in a minute why I say 8A, not small. That's a strategic decision of mine, right? This is not a one-off decision. I'm making very strategic decisions. Where am I getting my money from? Where am I getting it as a prime? Where am I getting it as a sub? And so as you see here, I'm saying from small businesses, 8As in this case, I plan on being able to get 3 million. Okay, perfect, right? And when you have these kind of data points or goals, you then can align activity metrics around that so that you can see every week or every month whether you're moving forward. Are you doing the right things to get those goals? You can see long before the middle of 2023 whether you're going to achieve those goals based on the activity you line up. Okay, so we've got the priming and the subbing in here. And if it makes sense what I'm saying on the subcontracting here, put subbing rocks, because I'm a big fan of subcontracting. So put subbing rocks into the chat if you understand what I'm talking about here, that subcontracting is important and you need to break that up between small and large firms. And I'm going to go down into the outside ring now and show you how I dive even deeper into this as I'm doing my planning. So here's other DoD agencies. And in this case, I'm talking about places like Defense Logistics Agency, US Transcom, places where I've had some businesses. A particular Air Force base called Scott Air Force Base, maybe where I'm located and I can have a lot of traction within them. Well, Scott Air Force Base has DISA on site and Transcom on site and some other ones. And so I think I can really, between these, all of these, where I have a lot of relationships, I can go after $1 million. These are not all of the DoD entities, by the way. As I go out to different years, I might put different information in here about where am I trying to sell. Let's go into the Air Force, right? Air Force, I plan on getting 2 million. Where are you getting it from? And so here, these three major commands are where I want to get it from. And they're at different levels on commands. I think AFMC, they might be like an echelon 2 or 1. I can't remember where they're at actually. But going down to the AFMC or AFMCLC or LCMC, I can keep going down further and further. And I'm going to show you how I go further down in this, because this is the end of the strategy. When I say Air Force 2 million, this is where I'm getting it. I might break this down further later to say I plan on getting $1 million from 16th Air Force and $1 million from AFMC, or 500,000 from AFMC and 500,000 from AMC, because I want to push in there further with new prime contracts where they see that we can do the work. So the Navy, I already know in the out years, these are where the money is. 10th Fleet Cyber, because I do cyber, and NavWar, because they're information warfare, so they kind of run the cloud, and NavC. Something I don't have in here that you might put in either one of the Air Force or Navy or even Army are the PEOs, the Program Executive Offices. But you get my point, right? As I come along, and the Army will be the same thing. In the Army, I'm saying over the next 5 years, I only need these 2 commands. And you could go, oh, well, why don't you have more commands? Well, because by the end of 5 years, I'll have run out of time. I probably won't go after the Army until 2025. If 2023 is the Air Force, 2024, I begin to push into the Navy, 2025, I push into the Army. Rather than let things reactionary happen to me, I'm planning them out. And so I'll have less time to go into the Army in my 5-year strategy. And so these commands are more than enough for me. Hopefully that makes sense as I'm diving down into it. Let me move into these next 2 rings. I'll just show them both at the same time so you can see them. So subcontracting. You want to create a number, a plan of how much sales revenue you're going to get from subcontracting. And I broke it down and said large 4 million, smalls, in this case, in particular, 8As, are going to be 3 million. And so the largest should be pretty clear, right? I've lined up 8 companies, and my intention is to establish 8 strategic relationships in 2023, probably with just the Air Force. So I'm going to look into CACI or BOOZ or GDIT And I'm going to find out who the business developers and capture leads are over there so that I might be able to get on their team as a cyber or cloud expert on opportunities they're going after. I will build a strategic relationship by telling them I'm also going after prime contracts, and I'll let them know. You can watch a different training I talk about where you build these strategic relationships. And if these 8 companies go together, that's perfect. But these companies, from my research, are the ones that I will measure myself on. Within the first month or two of 2023, I want to have established a recurring meeting with somebody from each one of these companies. Otherwise, I will know that I probably won't hit my $4 million goal, right? So this is kind of putting yourself in metrics. The part I was talking about, I'd explain later, is this 8A. You might have thought under subbing, I put large and small, but strategically, I don't want to go after small businesses. I want to go after 8A firms because I'm an IT company, cloud, cyber. And so I want to go after 8A firms as strategic partners. And when I say strategic, it does not mean I won't work with a woman-owned small business that's their only designation, but they're not 8A. I'll still work with them if they want to work with me, if we want to team together on opportunities, but that's not strategic. That's not hitting my strategic goals. My strategic goals, for example, with STARS 3 here, is to team up with a company that has access to a $50 billion IT vehicle over the next 10 years or 7 years, I guess, and to begin to drive in. And so I strategically have chosen to make 8A firms the anchor to where I'm going to get subbing for smalls. And in them, you can see 3 things. First, I want them to be on the STARS 3 vehicle. I've just taken 5,000 potential teaming partners down to 1,000 contract holders that are on STARS 3. Of those 1,000, I now want to find the ones that are already in DoD. I'm looking for 8A firms that are probably doing 5 million plus in DoD, right? I'll work with all sorts of people. Anybody who wants to work with me and it makes sense, I'm happy to work with them. That's not strategy. My strategic focus, though, is DoD. I'm selling into the DoD. I want to go find teammates that are in DoD. And so I'll push into that, just tracking my time there. And the last line you see on the subbing here is SDVO, woman-owned, and hub zone. So what I'm saying to me and my team is we want to go find 8A firms, but not just an 8A firm. We want to find an 8A firm that's on STARS 3, that's doing business in DoD, and we want to find those in every one that we strategically team up with. And my goal is to have 8. Every one of them will have a second designation or tag, right? In the small business world, they will be an 8A plus hub zone. They will be an 8A plus a woman-owned small business. They will be an 8A plus a service disabled veteran-owned business, right? From a strategic standpoint, this now allows me to have access to any set-aside that's out there. If I build a strategic relationship with these small businesses, and a strategic relationship is one where I care about their growth and they care about mine. If I build that relationship, then they're going to sit there and be able to give me access to opportunities that come out perhaps that are set aside to woman-owned small business that I don't have access to. And because I've built a strategic relationship, they might look at me and say, hey, love to team with you. You know, you're great over here. Maybe we work together on this as well. So this is the strategy wheel that I wanted you to see, and how when you create a plan for 2023, just determine your number. Hey, I want to make 10 million more next year. I'm going to do 3 million priming and 7 million subbing. And my core competency is going to be this, right? At the end of this training, you're going to see me ask you about this question or leave you with a task. But these kind of things, they don't take a lot of time. And then the same thing, you get together with whoever's on your team that could impact sales and say, well, where are we getting it from? How do we focus down? But even more importantly than focus is writing it down. If you don't write it down and say, this is where we're going, and then you drive in there, then whatever distraction happens will pull your attention over to there. But if you write it down every week when you have a staff meeting, you can look at this plan and go, are we on track to our plan, or are we living a reactionary life kind of thing? So let me show you something else here. So I don't think I need to, let me stop sharing for 1 second and come back to this other thing I wanted to share. Okay, so I think I'm sharing again. You saw me go down in the Air Force to like 16 cyber. And I told you my core competency, one of them is cyber. And so one of the ways I work with my customers is I build out, for business development in particular, I build out these org charts. And so here it's a DoD practice area. I've got all this information about DoD, understanding their cyber mission forces, and then here's Navy and Marine Corps, Army, and then DoD cyber. But if I come in, I can go deeper. I said 16th Air Force, but you can go deeper on your focus of who are you going after. So just as a quick example to demo this, in 16th Air Force, right, I can come down here and I know that the 90th Cyberspace Operations Squadron and the 92nd Cyberspace Operations Squadron, these two have a lot of involvement on a $6 billion cyber contract vehicle that's coming out. So there's a lot of influencers, potential buyers or buyer representatives in there that I want to go in. And when I lay out an organization chart like this under 16th Air Force, I can begin to decide which ones of these organizations under 16th Air Force makes sense for me to pursue and which ones it just doesn't make any sense at all to pursue. And so, I would encourage you to do the same thing, begin to gather information, et cetera, that lets you track on it. One last thing I just wanted to mention is that, let me find my graphic here. This is one of my favorite graphics because we put together the entire complex federal government contracting process into a 7-step process, right? And what I just showed you is determining sales. I want $10 million in new sales. And in that sales area, that's that strategy plan that I just showed you. When you have that in place, it will then help you understand how many proposals do I need to get out in order to make that $3 million in prime contracting, right? How many opportunities, how many large and small business prime relationships do I need to have in place? When you get in place a strategic plan, tie it together with the process, and you can begin to have success. And so if that makes sense, how your strategic plan can fit into that 7-step process, just put 7-step process into the chat. Let me know you're tracking on that last point that I mentioned. And I appreciate, I just saw one comment, incredible info. I appreciate that. We work hard to please. I did want to come back with one last message for you, right? Today, we talked about planning for your success in next year in the federal market. If you want that today, do these 3 things to get started, right? Determine your revenue goal, put in your core competency, and then determine your core or primary agency. If you do those 3 things, your revenue goal, your core competency, your primary agency, then you'll be halfway there on your strategic plan. I love providing this stuff to you every single day, this training to you. If you found value in today's training, do me a favor, thank me, thank Gus in the chat. If you don't know, Gus Phelps is my partner on this activity, and he's in the background helping. But we work hard to bring this together. So give us a little thanks in there. And remember, government contracting, it is not a secret. It's just a process. Part of the process is showing up tomorrow. So I'll see you in the next training.